Imagine the pet you cherish, the one who brightens your days and fills your heart with joy, the loyal companion who waits eagerly for your return, offering unconditional love and comfort. Now picture a day when you're faced with a heart-wrenching reality, ultimatum, really, to have to surrender your beloved pet to a stranger or face the consequences. If you believe animals are sentient beings, then this is the show you're going to want to watch tonight. This scenario I've mentioned was the harsh reality for Sophia, one of tonight's guests. Sophia is here with attorney Christina Bergston from the animal law firm, and we're going to be talking with Sophia and Ms. Bergston about Kano, the dog, who has inspired and a proposed legislation aimed at safeguarding pets and their owners against this kind of unfairness, let's just say. So stay with us to find out how you can contribute to preventing similar tragedies from befalling others. I want to welcome to the Animal Intuitive channel, Sophia and Christina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, welcome. I'm so happy that you're both here. Sophia may have frozen a little bit here. She'll be back. And if you're new here, I'm Angelo Webb. I've been teaching animal communication for over 20 years. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. And here on the Animal Intuitive channel, we give animals a voice through animal communication, acupressure, massage, anything holistic to help our pets. I'm board certified in massage and acupressure for animals. And this show is this is perfect for tonight because we want to give animals a voice and support pet parents. And so we are so glad for anybody who's new here, welcome. And I want to let you know that we do have a chat if you wanted to ask questions or hop in there. We have a wonderful mod in there named Melmac. However, I do want to mention that this could be triggering for some people, this topic tonight. So, just keep that in mind from what I've mentioned. And also, if you're in the chat, please be respectful. Melmac does have the ability to boot people who are not respectful. So just want to mention that as we dive in. So why don't we just start here with whoever wants to start, because I know this is not the easiest topic, and we've talked a little bit about having Ms. Bergston talk a little bit more about the details of the case, but Sophia's going to jump in because she has some important things to say too. But we will proceed and let it flow naturally. So Ms. Bergston or Sophia, whoever wants to start, can you tell us how everything started? Let's just start from the beginning, talking about Kano.
Well, I was going to say, please call me Christina, but this is Sophia's story. So I think, Sophia, if you're comfortable, I think it would make sense for you to start us off.
I wonder if she's got a delay. Let me see. I have a feeling she can't hear. Can you hear? Well, 1 second, guys. Looks like we have a little bit. She's muted herself. It looks like that. Let me see. Maybe she accidentally muted herself. I have a feeling she's going to come back. She got messed up. So,
Okay.
yeah. So everyone just be patient. She's coming back in. There we go. Hi. Let me move you over there. We'll put you under your name. Oh, nope. There we go. Shuffle. Okay. All right, Sophia. So we were just, I think maybe, I'm not sure if you could hear us. So we were just starting and saying, we want to be respectful. We know this is not the easiest topic. Christina wanted to know if you wanted to start by telling what happened with Kano, or would you like her to begin? What would be best for you?
You mean like what's happened since the case, or just
the
general?
start, like just to help people understand how this all started and just from the beginning.
I can go over it briefly. I mean, I don't mind.
Okay. All right, so we'll let you start, Sophia, and tell us how things got started, how Kano came into your life, really.
Okay. So a coworker of mine had approached me about temporarily or her mother's dog. She told me Kano was her mother's dog and that he wasn't getting the proper care. My understanding from what she told me was that her mother was sick at the time, and just wasn't able to give him the care that he needed. And that's really all I knew. So on February 18th, Kano was dropped off to my house by my coworker and her husband, and I was not prepared for the condition that he came to me in. It was very obvious that he wasn't just, not receiving enough time, not being walked enough. He was skin and bones. His coat was dull. It was covered in dander. His eyes had what looked like conjunctivitis. There was obviously something very wrong with the whole situation. Um, and according to our agreement, I would watch him until about the end of April, when her brother, who lived with her mother at the time, would be released from jail. He was in jail for DUI and related charges. And my understanding was that he lived with his mother and helped with the day-to-day, including Kano in the house. But obviously, because she was unwell and he was in jail, he was not available to help her. And that's really all the information I really knew at the time that I agreed to foster him. Did you want me to keep going as far as what happened?
Yeah, let's continue on. Yeah.
Okay, so on March 16th, we had agreed to meet this woman who claimed to be Kano's pet parent or owner, and my coworker and her husband at a local dog park. I brought myself and my boyfriend and also his cousin. And we met and we spoke with this woman, and she was in better health at the time, according to my coworker. And she was very happy to see the progress that Kano was making. He was at a healthier weight. He looked better. He was feeling better. We were working on his dog reactivity and things of that nature. And she was really quite lovely. Not at all how my coworker described her. So I was really relieved, I guess you could say, that she seemed to like me and she seemed to like what she was seeing. And she approached me and my boyfriend at his car upon leaving, and she said, "I can see how happy Kano is and how much you love him, and he loves you.
I'm
Keep the
so
dog."
sorry.
It's okay.
Oh.
And so we thought that we could keep Kano. And just a little bit of my background, I grew up with dogs and rabbits, many of whom were given to us. So I did not know that I would in the future need any more than that, than this woman's word. And I believed her. And then at the end of April, her son was released from jail, and he claimed that Kano was his dog and that he wanted, quote unquote, his dog back. And then we entered into a custody battle that lasted 3 days of trial. And unfortunately, we lost that battle, even though we submitted the evidence that he had not been well taken care of prior to us. And part of the reasoning for that was there was no receipt. And Christina would probably be best to talk about this, but pets are considered property, and their best interests and their well-being are not taken into consideration for things like custody.
I'm gonna actually just so people can kind of see Kano. Let me just show you guys some pictures. I guess these are some things you probably put together for poor Sophia, and I'm so sorry. I know this is not easy, and people were just want to support you in the chat. People are just, I couldn't see the chat before, so now I'm just taking a look at it, and I think people really just want to be supportive, and here they're noting that you had a bond, and
Thank you.
you were in their thoughts and prayers, and yeah, everyone is just so sorry about this. So this is Kano. Before, this is obviously from above. I have to flip off screen. Hopefully I can see. As I'm scrolling down, I want you guys to be able to see him and his face and everything. There he is.
Yeah.
So I think the words after and before got a little messed up in the document, but this was him. Move that out of the way.
The left is before. Yep.
The left is before. Yeah. And then you can
Yeah.
kind of, he gets bigger here.
Yes, he does. Yeah. Yeah,
How'd
he's
he?
meant to be an 80-pound dog. So, because he is an Old English Bulldog, and they're meant to be
Okay.
stockier. Um, so the
People are
condition he,
asking, oh, sorry, how old was he when he came to?
so he was a little over a year with me. They weren't really sure what his age was. They weren't quite sure even really his name. Um, they're just there was not a lot of information on him. Um, and I couldn't tell you why looking back. That doesn't seem, when you don't have a lot of information.
Right.
Um,
Been there, yeah.
but I just wanted to help her. Yeah.
Um, and this is okay. So this is him. So cute. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so sweet with his toy. And then you
Yeah.
look. You said eyes right here. Yeah, you can see. So oh yeah, he's dealing with some stuff there.
Yeah.
Look how. Oh,
And it took that eye infection, and he had a double ear infection. He had all kinds of atopic dermatitis and things going on just with everything, I guess, from sitting in his own urine or whatnot. I mean, he was created 24/7 in a home with no heat and was very rarely fed or let out. So when we had taken him to the vet, it took several months to get just the ear infections under control because it was just so bad.
oh goodness. Okay. So you invested. I mean, I'm sure it came from your heart, but it wasn't about the money, but you did invest money to get him feeling better. I mean, it wasn't just like you took him in and then, fed him some food. You took him to the vet, you took care of him, oh, look at him.
Yeah, because my Mr. Rolls. Yeah, yeah, babes I used to call him.
It's so cute.
But yeah, he was definitely not well. The vet noted that. He was like, "Oh my God." I noted some
Yeah.
weird behaviors with him. He was very reactive to so many things, very fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the concerns was he didn't groom himself. And I had found out more information as the time went on that I had him in my care. And one of those things was that there had been another dog in that home. And my coworker had told me directly in front of others that she had found that dog dead and decomposing in the home. And my vet said, well, maybe he learned from the stench to not clean himself, or he didn't have enough room in whatever crate he was in to clean himself. And that is why he just would not groom himself, which I thought was weird. So unfortunately,
Gosh.
that meant baths every day. He had a wipe down. I mean, he didn't really know how, and he never
Oh,
really did until later. He would do his front paws, and that was really all he ever learned to do.
oh my goodness. And there he is again.
Yeah.
These are all his toys.
Yeah.
Oh, just before court ordered surrender.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
must have been heart-wrenching. And there you are together. So cute.
Yeah, he was a mama's boy.
So sweet. So, okay. That's a lot. Okay, so let's talk. Maybe Christina, can you jump in and just tell us a little bit about the legal process? How in the world? I mean, we're looking at these pictures, and it's hard to believe that this dog had to go back. Can you tell us about the law?
Yeah. I mean, a couple things, I guess, to start with. As Sophia mentioned, pets are considered property in New Jersey, Colorado, Pennsylvania, New York, like all 50 states. There are some that have a little bit more protections than others, but they're still property at the end of the day. And I mean, I think, sorry, my cat's trying to get in on the interview.
Oh, that's okay.
She wants her 15 minutes of fame.
She's welcome.
Well, now that I put her on the spot. So, I mean, yeah, pets are property. And I think one thing to keep in mind in Sophia's case, and like, I hate to say this, but unfortunately it happens more often than I'd like to admit. Sometimes you just get bad luck when it comes to judges. And I think because New Jersey is one of the states that actually is more forgiving when it comes to animals are seen as having intrinsic value, which doesn't happen in a lot of states. And I think this particular judge just wasn't educated in New Jersey's history with respect to animals having an intrinsic value. And I think, not to throw Sophia's prior attorney under the bus, but I'm going to throw him under the bus. There were a lot of things that were missed, I think, and a lot of opportunities that could have been handled differently or better. There were objections that could have and should have been made. And there was, I think a lot of what I do in my practice is I educate judges because they're not familiar with the case law and they're not familiar with the history. And so when you go in there and you're filing you're fighting a replevant action, or even if you're filing a replevant action, and that's what Sophia was sued under, was replevin. And replevin is an ancient property doctrine, basically. And it basically means give me my property back. It comes from like feudal England when we first developed the law, where, your sheep would wander from one farm to another and you'd have to go to the Lord and get your property back. And so that's what replevin is. But it's not used a lot. It's starting to get used more as we have these pet custody disputes, but there's still a lot of education that needs to be done because it's not a common thing like suing someone for negligence, right? So yeah, I have a tendency to ramble, so feel free to rein me in at any time, but lawyers, right? So
no.
I can't stop talking. Fine. But
well, that was funny. That was timing. It just stopped you. There we go.
Oh.
Wait, you're coming back.
So yeah, I think Sophia had a combination of just really unfair factors that worked against her in this case. But by and large, unfortunately, the law does not have a provision that factors in the welfare of the animal. And I think that's what Kano's law is gearing up to do, that makes it a consideration for judges in these cases. Because right now it's really just based on title, like whose name is on the piece of paper.
Okay. So it didn't factor in anything about, they don't look into his ability to pay for food, even shelter for him and the animal, veterinary costs, nothing. They don't look into that at all in giving this.
No.
And also, I think you told me that he showed up the third day of the trial. He wasn't even there for the...
Yeah, when and she can even, because she's obviously the professional, but when Christina took over my case, like she mentioned earlier, she noticed that there was a lot of things that I guess procedurally, for lack of better terms, was either done inaccurately or wasn't quite the way that it should have been. The woman who had first reported herself as Kano's owner was not allowed to testify. And then her son, my coworker's brother, who did claim to be Kano's owner, did not show up until the day of trial on the third day, which happened to be the same day that the judge made her judgment after his testimony. So maybe Christina can talk better to that as far as, why we think that was allowed. I'm not sure.
Can I just ask real quick, just to get a picture of this? Was this, when you say 3 days of trial, like how many hours were you there in court each day?
It was several hours each day between waiting, listening to testimony, testifying. My testimony alone was 2 parts. So it was, I think, the first day and then part of the second day as well. So it was quite, it went from, I believe, August or September all the way to November. They were not consecutive days. It was over the course of several months.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Christina, I'm sorry. I interrupted the question that Sophia was throwing at you. And I forgot what it was.
What went wrong? Well, a lot of different things went wrong. And I mean, I think just the fact that what Sophia just described, like this insane trial schedule, I mean, that's just, I mean, it's sloppy judging, it's sloppy lawyering. I think because the judge was only hearing this case for a few hours a day every month or so, you know, she wasn't retaining what she was hearing from one day to the next. Uh, and
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
not have.
You just
I'm
got cut
sorry.
off a little bit there, Christina. We didn't hear what you said.
Oh, which part?
Just the last sentence before. You said that the judge wasn't retaining the information because it was spread out, and then you got cut
Yeah,
off.
I mean, there's just no way she could have. I take notes sometimes, but I mean, again, and I think this is a systemic issue, and it was a perfect storm of bad, like I said, sloppy lawyering, sloppy judging, sloppy calendaring. That this should have been done in one day. There's no way, even with notes, that you can retain information from a month ago with the amount of cases these judges hear in a day. And I also think too, you know, I'm personally not a huge fan of the special civil court. So for those who aren't in New Jersey, New Jersey's court system is the lowest level is special civil, then there's civil, and then there's a bunch of other courts that we won't get into, but the special civil is kind of like it's like the lower level court. It's just a step above small claims. And so the amount of cases that they see a ton of cases in a day, in a month. And so I think when courts are overburdened like that, and then you throw in a case with this much importance into an overburdened court system, they're just not going to prioritize it like they should. And so, I mean, yeah, that was definitely one issue. The plaintiff, not like some of the plaintiffs were there some days, some of them weren't there other days. The mother, who was supposedly the owner, she never testified at all. Sophia's attorney never asked for an instruction to have an adverse inference, because when witnesses don't testify that are integral to the case, you can ask the judge for an adverse inference, which means that because their lack of testimony is inferred to mean something negative, that they were essentially trying to hide something, which would have been beneficial to Sophia's case, right? Because all these other witnesses were testifying to what she says, which is hearsay. But her attorney never objected to hearsay, which is like attorney 101. And so, I mean, there was just this, and unfortunately, when you take cases on appeal, if certain things were not objected to at the trial court level, then there's nothing you can really do about them at the appellate level. We made the best arguments we could, but I'm kind of stuck, or any appellate attorney is kind of stuck with the record that's created at the trial court level. So it's really important to find an attorney that knows what they're doing. But it's hard, right? Because there's not a lot of us that practice animal law. So, you know, either way, I mean, there's information out there, but, you know, you got to have an attorney who's dedicated to the case. I've taken over cases from other attorneys before, and a lot of attorneys will take on these cases because they think, oh, I'm bored, I hate my life, what I'm doing, so I'm going to take on this interesting animal case. But then they don't devote the time and attention to it that they should. And who ends up suffering is not only owners like Sophia, but also dogs like Kano.
That's very upsetting to hear. Was the attorney assigned to you? Was it like a
No,
court
so
appointed?
I've never even had a speeding ticket. Okay, so I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Tsunami, not just a learning curve. And when I first got the paperwork that I was going to trial for custody, I was like, okay, what do I need? I guess because I'm the defense attorney, like I didn't even know, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know that there were lawyers that specified in nothing but animal law. And it was a referral from a friend of a friend that said, oh, I know this attorney, here you go. And it was
Okay.
like, okay. And I called several others that I guess are just your regular defense attorney, not knowing that there was someone like Christina with an expertise or a niche for specifically animal law. And hindsight is unfortunately 2020, because
Yeah.
God, I wish I would have had her then in my court.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Who would know though? I mean, that's who would know that? You just kind of ended up in this situation, out of the goodness of your heart, trying to take this poor dog in and rehabilitate him, and that was your focus. It sounds like, not ending up in a court battle. I mean,
No.
who would think that? Like, that's out of nowhere. And you have your regular life too, your job and what have you too. Um,
And this impeded everything. It impacted absolutely everything
tell me
in
a little bit
ways
more
that
about
the viewers
that.
need to know.
Yeah, tell us
Um,
about that.
well, obviously, I mean, because we're coworkers working in close proximity, it made me very uncomfortable. I would say, personally, my opinion was that and only, while I tried keeping things out of the workplace, that wasn't the case. And there were repercussions for them. So heaved everything. I mean, it truly did. I'm in a new school this year, so for those that so and so yeah, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And then Christina, she fought like hell. If, which she can speak to.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. Can you hear
Oh, am I
me?
muted? Did I come
There
back?
we go.
Okay. Sorry, we're
Yes.
having a little techie, I don't know, something going on in the atmosphere tonight. And then we switch again. Oh my gosh. All right, let me put Christina over here under her name, and there we go. Okay. So if you're coming in late, um, Sophia's just she told us about how she ended up with Kano, who was through a coworker whose mother had Kano in her care, along with another dog, who ended up being deceased in the home and kind of not properly dealt with. Um, but Kano came to her through a coworker, so this also affected her workplace, of course, and she just took this dog in to help, and then um, rehabilitated him, and then was taken to court to give him back when the woman's son came out of jail, unbeknownst to Sophia that there could be this person in the background that was going to come out and say, hey, I want this dog back. So um, and she had an appeal case, so we're to catch people up who are coming in a little bit late. um, so yes, I think it's a good thing we have attorneys, and we didn't really totally get to introduce your background, Christina, too. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, I don't mean to jump all over, but you deal specifically, as the name of your law firm says, the animal law firm, with animal cases. Is that how you got into law, or did you kind of move into that through time?
No. So yeah, and I mean, I want to quickly comment on Sophia. I mean, she said I fought like hell. It was Sophia who fought like hell. I mean, she was facing threats of jail before she gave
Oh
up
my
Kano.
gosh.
So she did everything she could. I mean, it was just such an unfair situation, and I mean, she was really staring down the barrel before she gave up Kano. So I mean, her dedication to him is unlike anything I've ever seen, and so I just wanted to point that out. He had a great dog mom in Sophia.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I didn't get started doing animal law because, like most people, I didn't know that animal law could be a thing. I started doing family law, but the short Reader's Digest version of my story is I just put it on the website one day and we started getting calls. And
Wow.
then I started practicing in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and then I moved to Colorado, opened my practice out there, and then I came back here to open a second office. So we're in 4 states now. We have Colorado, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, and we represent species of all kind: horses, pigs, goats,
Wow,
sheep,
that's awesome.
chickens, as well as dogs and cats, of course. We've had spiders, snakes. So
Spiders.
um,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
Those aren't as common, but we have had some. We had
Wow.
an emotional support snake named Annie the anaconda one time. So
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's gotta get, I was gonna say it's gotta get hairy. I don't mean to make a pun, but I mean, it's gotta get really difficult when it comes to some of the custody cases. I know I'm kind of going off the topic, but it's really gotta get bad when you've got people who separate and have an animal between them. So thank God for people who are doing this kind of work. So so from this, I mean, there's no recourse. You go to court, you go to the appeal, and then after that, there's no like second appeal. It's not like there's okay. So we don't really know how long ago was this that Kano was
So
taken
we were officially told that we were denied January 9th. So fairly recently.
recently. Yeah. Okay. And there's no like visitation, obviously. It's not like that kind of relationship. Okay.
No, unfortunately not.
But so from all of this, something good has come out of it. You've managed to, I mean, you must be a very strong person because you've taken this and you make it into something else. So you're trying to work on some legislation. So tell us about that.
So I, in the middle of everything, which I guess, you're grieving and you're frustrated and it just seems like the hits keep coming. And I had no idea this was such a learning curve. Like I said, I had no idea. We thought surely, after especially the pictures and what the vet said, surely this was a done deal. I mean, who in their right mind would think? And to come to find out that they really are just considered property. They're not even really considered to have emotion or feelings or bonds or anything that would make them alive by scientific standards. I just said, I think I told you in our pre-interview, the thing that stuck out the most, and obviously losing, which was the hardest part, was the lawyer said, Kano is just a piece of property. This isn't about his welfare or his well-being. He's a piece of property and he has to go back to his owner. And I said, my God, that is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know what? Someone's got to fix it. I was like, this can't keep happening. In cases of divorce, it's just whoever can provide the receipt for purchase. And there's no regard to, well, who does the animal want to be with, or who is best able to provide for the animal during their lifetime. And I think that's just so wrong. We're just, it speaks to
unbelievable.
so much, like we've talked about, it speaks to our psychosis. It speaks to, us as humans and us as a society, that the ones that are most vulnerable and need protecting, we're just failing to do that. And that's just so wrong. And it doesn't make sense logically, scientifically, or morally.
No.
And I think the laws should reflect our morality.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please let us know if you think that animals are sentient and that they should be able to go, they should be going to whoever is going to take the best care of them. We we talk about animal communication here, but in a court of law, I'm sure that they would say they can't speak, but at the same time, neither can an infant speak for themselves, but you can surmise what they would want if you need people to speak for them. So we want to hear from you guys in the comments, and if you're watching the replay, let us know. Do you think that animals should have this should be changed, that they are no longer considered property, that they're sentient beings, and that they should be afforded those rights? So yeah, I would agree, absolutely, Tammy. So tell us, are you part of Kanoslaw, Christina? Are you involved in any kind of like the drawing up of it, or is
no, no. I mean, I supported it in spirit, of course. No, drawing up laws is a specialized practice. So no, unfortunately, it's not something I do. I wish I could have had more time to do it, but we're pretty busy with these these kinds of cases. So we don't really have a ton of time to lobby or to get involved in the actual legislative process. But whenever somebody asks, I mean, I've testified on bills before, and that involve animals. So we try to support wherever we can.
So, okay, so Sophia, what is the process? What are you doing right now with Kano's Law? And tell us a little bit more about it. Like what I have it here in front of me, but I'll let you talk in detail a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So honestly, all we're asking for is that the courts look at a custody case, whether it's a canine, a feline, whoever, and they take a second and just stop and say, what is in the best interest of the animal? Factors to consider. Have either of the disputing parties ever been investigated or found guilty of animal abuse or cruelty or neglect or abandonment? Is there any kind of guarantee that this animal is going to be safe or well cared for? Does which party can best provide medical care, proper medical care? The individual that showed up on the last day of court stated that he does not have a driver's license. And the one good thing that I guess my lawyer did was say, well, how do you plan on caring for him medically and getting him, in case of an emergency? How do you plan on getting Kano, a proper medical care? So just asking what I hope listeners would say are very basic, almost like duh,
Pretty
kind
logical,
of
yeah.
common sense,
Yes.
we're asking just the courts to take a step back and say, well, which party, has the bond and can best care for this animal? Because they have feelings too, and they grieve just like we
Right.
do. One of the things that got me the most upset was him wondering, where am I? Because I would never abandon him like that. And I never wanted him to experience that again. And it upsets me, obviously, still to think that maybe he's just wondering, where is she? What did I do this time? So people can say it's an emotionally based, but they are sentient beings and they are emotional creatures. And I think their feelings and their welfare should be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. And where are you at in this process? I'm sure it's not an easy one, the road of doing this, but
Yeah, I mean, we're nearing 183,000 supporters, which is great. Kano's Law, I think, is a wonderful initiative. I'm looking to go bigger. I've actually been working with some women across several states that are really big animal advocates, and we're working almost like a Bill of Rights, and that's really all I'll say until it's finalized, because we're still working on the actual document. But we're looking for more comprehensive welfare laws in the United States. We're setting a horrible example, especially as a country that boasts being the example.
right.
I think the example we're setting is horrible. And, it speaks a lot to us as a society and as a species that we're allowing the abuse, the state of our shelters, the neglect. I'm sure Christina has seen horrific, probably much worse than Kano, admittedly. And it needs to stop. It needs to stop.
Tell us a little bit about what the problem here is, because it's a bigger issue, right? There's agriculture that is potentially blocking this kind of legislation. Big agriculture.
Christina's best.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. If I can step on my soapbox for a minute, yeah. I mean, 100%. It's the agriculture industry. I mean, not to be one of those vegans who always tells everyone that I'm vegan, but I'm vegan, and so like this is a huge thing, because what the agricultural industry and the dairy industry wants to sit there and say is, oh well, if you give pets rights, then how much longer before you start giving cows and pigs and the other animals we traditionally eat rights? So they can look at it as a slippery slope, and they'll spend millions and millions of dollars to prevent pets from getting rights. But I mean, I think that, it's pretty easy to draw a distinction between as much as I hate to say it, it's easy to draw a distinction between the pets that, or the animals that we consider pets and we let into our home, and then the animals that we consume for food. And so I don't think it's as slippery as a slope as the agricultural industry wants to make it out to be. There's definitely a lot of things that you can put in place. I mean, Sophia, her Bill of Rights, I mean, that's obviously something that you're going to be able to apply a lot easier to pets than you are to, farm animals. And we already draw the distinction anyway, just in our regular lexicon. So it doesn't really make sense why the agricultural industry fights it so hard. But yeah, I mean, I think that's first and foremost the biggest issue. And it's the biggest issue I run into with judges too, is just that they're afraid to change the law. And I think that there's a lot of, there's just a lot of cowardice in the law. Like I think that there's just a lot of people who aren't willing to take the risks and do the right and moral thing, like Sophia said. And it's just easier to sit there and just do what's always been done because, well, then I don't run the risk of getting appealed. And it's like, well, is that really, like Sophia said, is that the example we really want to set? And it's like, we shouldn't, because we didn't used to do it that way in this country. We've changed laws. Judges have changed laws. Whether it's civil rights, racial discrimination, sex discrimination, all the different isms. I mean, we've changed the laws, so this can be done, but it just takes brave people like Sophia to do it.
Right. Yes, and people are asking for how they can get involved, and I'm going to have the link in the description. But what is it where would people go, Sophia, to help out? Maybe first off to sign the petition.
Absolutely. So it's on change.org. If you look up Kanoslaw, Kano, and you said it'd be in the description as well. If you go to change.org and look up Kanoslaw and sign the petition, share the petition, get it out there. We have flyers, we have letters to the president already pre-typed. And then honestly, it takes a vote. You have to go locally first, get out there, see what the local government, and I guess Christina could speak better to this, but you have to vote in people locally and in your state that are supportive of animal welfare laws. If their morality and their ideas don't correlate with yours, then don't vote for them. Vote for someone who cares. And if nobody's asking the question, be brave enough to step up and say, hey, I like your opinion on that. Join those meetings and things and get out there and educate yourself, because I think you'd be shocked to find out who's sitting in office supposedly representing you and representing what you feel is right. And I feel like a lot of people, if they took a step back and looked, they'd go, oh my gosh, I don't align with this at all. I can't believe that this is happening. So, and, something I did was to get involved with your local animal shelter. They always need volunteers, donations, fosters especially. Our shelters are underwater right now. Yeah. There's the spoon theory I learned about. They're digging soup with with slotted spoons. I mean, they're drowning. Yeah. So get involved locally at your state level, and Kano's law is federally.
Okay. And then is the other thing kind of just something right now people might not get involved with directly, the Bill of Rights? Is that just something you're kind of working on as a group?
I am working on. I can include for you, I can include the email address for it if there's someone that wants to get involved. I have heard from people from, veterinarian malpractice all the way to kidnapping to rescues and those in the animal shelter world. I want to make sure that I hear from everyone, because I want to touch on every problem. I want to know, what do you think? I really want something that, say we're doing the job for them, but I want something that's so comprehensive it requires a signature and let's be done with the thing already. So I want to touch on absolutely everything, do their job for them if I have to, and get it signed and put into place.
And so if people were to contact you about that, should they directly or?
Absolutely. I'll include my email address for that.
Okay.
It's Kanoslaw.petsrfamily, but it does have a dot here, and instead of ARE, it's just R. So I'll include that for you.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is right. Is it Kanoslaw.petsrfamily at like Gmail or
Kanoslaw.petsr, just the letter family, at gmail.com.
okay. Hopefully I got that right on there. But I will have it in the description too.
Oh, perfect.
And it is interesting because I know that a lot of times we had Animal Victory. They do petitions. Had them on not too long ago, and I always sign their petitions. And I get, I think it's through them. It may be through another organization, but whatever. I get something back somehow. Maybe it's change.org from my representatives here, and they're very actually animal supportive, but I mean, it just happens to be that I don't where I am, in New Jersey. It just I'm actually surprised that you said that the laws are better here because things can be very difficult here, in many ways. So that's nice to hear, and I think Cory Booker too. He's like a big animal advocate, I believe, isn't he? Like,
He's vegan, or he
yeah,
was.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure it's got to be tough in a lot of places. So,
That's awful.
so just in the comments, people are, and I didn't realize also, Christina, you have a website, you have a channel here too on YouTube. Somebody posted the mod Melmac put I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we've got all the socials, YouTube, we've got a podcast, so
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
I will have that
If
in the
you're ever
description too. That's
thanks.
probably hard for people to type, so I'll put something in the
Right.
description after I get it for you. So, is there anything else that I'm going to say, okay, so here's something potentially, this is of course not how I feel, but I could see how someone on the other side of this lawsuit could come on here and potentially post something saying, well, hey, I was incarcerated. I came out. I agreed to take care of the dog. I didn't know that, what was going on. I couldn't do anything. I was incarcerated. But it is my dog. I didn't want the dog to have something bad happen to it. My mother couldn't take care of him. And then what do you say to that kind of thinking, just so we can get ahead of some of those questions that might come later?
Me specifically? Or Christina can take a
Ah.
whack at it.
Yeah, we'll see. If you've got anything to add, both of you.
I mean, I think that, yeah, we don't want to punish people twice if they've served their debt to society, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, you made your bed, you should have, whoever was responsible for making your bed after you left it should have been left with clean sheets, and it should have been set up for success to maintain it. I find it hard to believe that when he left, because it wasn't sudden, it was planned.
No.
Like, yeah, it wasn't like he got arrested just on a whim. It was like he, went through the court process, and then eventually the judge announced the sentence, which happens a lot in DUI cases or criminal cases in general. Like, you're out of jail for the entirety of the case, and then when you get your sentence, you have to report on a certain day, and if you don't, then you get in more trouble. But then you report, and then you serve your sentence and you get out, right? So it wasn't like he didn't know this was coming, and it wasn't like there couldn't have been better processes and procedures in place. It just seems like things were just left until he wasn't there anymore. And so it's just like, while I sympathize with the fact that, he paid his debt to society, it's also kind of like, well, you didn't really plan ahead very well to ensure that this dog you supposedly love so much wasn't basically starved to death. And I didn't know that there was another dog that died in the house like that. I mean, to me, it's just like, how have these people not been investigated for animal cruelty?
Right.
Because you can't just let animals die in the house. Every state at least acknowledges that that's bad. Thank God. But how did they? I don't know.
And there's no follow-up
sorry,
either, right? It's not like there's an animal CPS, that's like assigned to monitor now that Kano's there. There's nothing like that, right? So that's another thing is that part of your legislation too, Sophia?
Absolutely. I mean, I know some people say, well, an animal is different than a child. I would say, well, okay, so let's look at it the way that you are. If you have an adoptive child, is that your property just because you signed a paper saying, well, I'm taking over guardianship of this living creature that has feelings and an intellect and yada, yada, yada. When you compare pet parents to those of human children, we feed them, we get them medical care, we provide them shelter and a home, we provide them, I'm in education, whether you want to call it education or training, it's the same thing. A lot of trainers from my learning experience going through dog training and working at a shelter, we use the same lingo and the same vocabulary, teachable moments, positive reinforcement. Guess what? They're the same thing.
Yeah. No.
Whether you're teaching or training, it's the same thing. We are training our young children to be productive members of society when they're adults, or at least so we hope. So I would argue that they're actually not so different. And I think the legal system should at least level the playing field, and something like that, where a humane officer is actually making home checks, for lack of a better word, I think we could all agree is probably for the best.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And it's so interesting because one of the first things when I went to social work school, one of the first things they teach you is that kid laws kind of came from animal protective laws. Like first there was animal protection, and I think there was like a New York City case that was in my aging memory that like we learned about. It was like the first case of where a child had been abused, and then they referenced an animal law that then they were able to say, okay, well, this child needs to be, they incorporated it. So it's like, how did we go backward from that? I don't understand.
That's a very good why. And I know you and I have spoken about that. But there's a lot of whys here that I think we aren't asking and we should be. For example, we know through a lot of scientific evidence that things like elderly have a correlation with animal abuse and and people mentioned, the plaintiffs did mention that they were, or some of them were being investigated for elderly abuse. My question as the judge, and again with Kano's law, would be, well, what's the interest for an elderly human woman? Is the animal going to therefore be safe in that home if I place this animal with that party? And my answer, and I hope most people, or if not everyone, would say no, of course not. Whether it's a human victim, it's still a victim, and if it's not safe for one, it's not safe for all, period.
Right. Yep. And there definitely is a correlation. This is, things just kind of keep coming as we're going along. Things just keep coming. Oh, that didn't realize that there was actually being investigated for elder abuse. Like it just kind of keeps getting worse and worse. This is a very concerning case, and it needs a lot of attention. And Kano's law needs a lot of attention. And I really hope. Does anybody have any questions, by the way, in the chat? I've been trying to look over there, but I know there's just a lot of people who are agreeing with you and speaking motherese to pets. Signed, Tammy, thank you so much. She went right in and signed it. So yeah, if everybody who's watching, if you could sign it and share it. We'll have that link in the description. I will do that right when we get off the air. And make sure to sign that and share this, share the information. And yeah, people do. They take their pain out on the fragile. Yeah. So, is there anything that, I haven't asked or we haven't talked about that is important that we've missed?
I'd like to hear what Christina has to say, especially from like a legal opinion from this.
Well, I don't know if we have time for all that.
We have time.
But I mean, I think probably the biggest takeaway from this case is, two things. One, that you've got to be really careful about who you're trusting with case, and two, you've also got to be really careful about who you're trusting with investigating your legislators. That is very doable, and it's difficult, but it's very doable, and you should do it, because you'd be surprised. I agree about all the not, and so it's important to really look at what your legislators vote for. There's a few organizations around the country that do this. One of them's Colorado Voters for Animals, and I mention it because we're out in Colorado too. And so if you're interested in starting your own organization in your state, specifically where they help people across the country set up similar organizations where you can help educate the public on who is an animal-friendly legislature versus who is not. Oh. So they're an excellent resource.
Who is that again?
And then I know I was following it for a while, and Colorado Voters for Animals.
Oh, okay.
I know that they've helped some other states.
I don't know what's
pop
going on.
Up and
a little audio issue.
Oh, am I?
Oh. Yeah, it's getting a little cut off. Of course, I feel like it's always something. Sometimes you just can't control what's going on. I know people are like, the coming eclipse is doing something, because this is very important stuff. So I feel bad that she's getting cut off on that. But she'll come back in and maybe her audio will be better. But the Colorado, I forgot the whole thing that she said, but maybe she'll
Colorado Voters for Animals.
Colorado Voters for Animals. Okay. Colorado, put that in the chat. Colorado. Okay.
There she is. She looks great. Maybe I'm going to try it now.
Coming back in. Okay, so we were just saying that was the Colorado Voters for Animals. Okay.
Yeah, Colorado. Oh, yeah. There we go. Now we can see your pretty curls. Colorado Voters for Animals. They're a great organization to start with. They'll help you get set up in your state if you want to get started. And I was following for a while. Rhode Island was getting ready to pass a bill on the best interests of the animal in custody disputes. So, if you're in Rhode Island, you should definitely be following those legislators to find out what happened to the bill and are they going to try to reintroduce it again. I think that's the most important thing. There's only so much you can do in the law, unfortunately. If you want to do that, it's a really insurmountable.
Oh dear.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can, when you just said, can you hear me? But then it just kind of keeps cutting in and out. There you are again. So it seems like no, I don't know why. It's particularly challenging tonight with the audio and everything. I don't know why. Maybe everyone's like, this eclipse, it's the eclipse, it's coming. Um,
The
but
lunar one's tonight, or it was last night. I can't remember. And then
okay.
we can come in. Yeah. So
Yeah, with a
just in
full
case
moon
anyone was
last
curious.
night. Yeah. Um, Crazy. It's been a crazy day. I actually dropped my phone is in a case that had all my cards in it. And I went out for 5 minutes with my dogs and dropped it. And somebody in that time picked it up and took it on a ride. Like they actually was able to watch it on the like where's my phone thing on the computer. And it was like, oh my gosh, my license was in there, my bank cards, everything. And I'm watching it travel like through New Jersey. Like finally, like I figured out I there's a way to like tell the phone to tell the person, if you get this message, please call this number, which I didn't realize, but I came upon that and they called my husband and the person actually had it and they were like, I think they were walking to like a bus and they happened to, we literally must have done this and they just happened, like they just crossed me because I came back to look for it and it was gone like a few minutes later and there weren't a lot of people around, but it was wonderful that they called, they didn't do it. It was really nice that they gave it back and everything. My husband was able to go pick it up. So it was, but it's just been that kind of day. I don't know. It's like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had some tech issues, Harlan. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it was nice that they were good. So anyway, off the subject, but so we have a long way to go, it sounds like, and it starts with who we're voting for, has a lot to do with it. But we're going to have to try to convince some people that don't necessarily back this kind of thing. So it sounds like you're trying to be very mindful, Sophia, about what you put into this so that it's comprehensive and
Absolutely.
so good for you for the time that it's probably going to take a little longer, but it's worth it to make sure it's done right. And of course, if there's anything that we can do here to help, of course everyone watching will help and sign this, right, everyone, and share. But I'd be happy. I think we keep losing Christina. Maybe her father's insisting on watching this football game that he he was going to stay off the internet, but he may have been like, no, I'm done. I've waited an hour.
Yeah.
There she is. She's back.
Yeah, but
Was
you did bring up a good point about education. I think, it's so being in education, I can tell you that most 5-year-olds can absolutely tell the difference between dog or pencil spatula. So if they can do it, surely legislators and our lawmakers.
yeah.
So it's like my thought were one either is on the animal, or unfortunately, there's a case that I'm pretty close.
I don't know, guys. I don't know why we're having so many problems tonight. I'm so sorry. They'll be coming back in. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, we'll have Sophia give us updates as things progress. I really appreciate everybody's support in the chat. And please let us know if you're watching the replay. What do you think? Should we have these laws? Should animals have laws that protect them? I'm wondering if people have been in this situation at all who are watching this. It's a terrible position to be in. I cannot imagine. Very strange goings on tonight. I don't know. But I think, it speaks to what we talk about here all the time on this show, that animals have feelings, they have thoughts, and we need to be respectful of that. Is Kano? No, Kano is not with Sophia. That was that was what happened. They ended up, they kind of had to go back to this individual, and it's sad, very unfortunate. but she really has done something with it in this Kanoslaw where she's taken it. So it could not have been easy to go through that. I cannot imagine. I really can't. It's heartbreaking. Yes, they do have a community wall here. I don't think anybody gets to see it. I'm glad to see Mel Mac. Maybe you do. If YouTube does not help this show out. I'm not going to go on a rant, but we struggle here. I don't know. It's partly because it's a niche, but it's an educational channel, so we struggle, and I just don't feel like I get frustrated, honestly. I don't think people see the community post. I know, like, my husband's told me, like, he'll get a notification about this show the next day sometimes that we've been live, like, even though he's hit the bell and asked to be notified. But please do that so that you're notified about the show. And if you want to learn more about the feelings and thoughts that animals do have, I just waiting for them to come back. I do have a free class. You can get that here with this QR code. It's a free digital class. You could start communicating with animals that way. That's through Animal Intuitive Academy. That's my school. And I also have other things there too. You can go deeper and start going towards a certification if you'd like. We have different levels there. And I have a digital class you can purchase with acupressure too. But grab your class for free. And on my website, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com, you can find that. I also have a free meditation on there if you just want like an audio meditation to start with. You just have to sign up for my email list, but it's good to be on there. You get notified about special offers and information about these shows. Yeah, I thought after all they would have the authority get sided with Sophia. You would think so. You would think so. Yeah, people getting burned for speaking the truth. You know, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is the most controversial channel. So I don't know what truth I'm speaking that is. I just think it is a niche, and it's a little tough. It says waiting on the host, but I'm trying to re-enter. Oh my. I don't know why she can't get in here. I feel terrible. I'm just letting her know. Yeah, she can't get in. Oh, wait. No, she's coming back in. Wait. But no. Yeah, it is a warm vibe. I think, I've tried to play around with different things as just kind of waiting to see if she pops up again. So filling time a little bit here, and I don't mean to just go on a rant, but I really prepare. I try to provide people with real education on this show. I don't just throw anything on here. All my shows are well researched. I try to, if I'm not teaching, I'm interviewing someone, and I've done a lot of research and made sure it's a really good guest and they have a lot to offer. But I don't know. The show doesn't particularly do amazingly well, and it's been a little frustrating. But for now, I keep going. But it's just the algorithm. So yeah, you could help us out by giving us a thumbs up. It does help, and sharing about the show. The algorithm's tough. It's hard to know what the algorithm wants, really. I think to some extent doing a long format show can be part of the issue. They've liked shorter and shorter, so I don't know. I like to not just give junk, so I don't want to cut it off and just throw out a little bit. I want to give the whole thing, so I don't know. It is a hard time, I think, for empaths. I think you're absolutely right. It's it's very challenging to be an empath. But I think being in this kind of community and, hey, these classes can help, take a class where you are kind of, I have a class I specifically designed that's a digital download class that you can take anytime, that I really threw in a lot of techniques to help people as well as their pets, to help you with grounding. But that's my animal communication, acupressure, and mindfulness class. But I have so many classes on here, so many lessons on here. I have a playlist for acupressure, massage, and animal communication. And those kinds of things can help you too during these difficult times, because they're acupressure points you can do with your pets. And I'm board certified for animal acupressure, not human acupressure or an acupuncturist, but you can use those on yourself too. So they can help you to help yourself during these difficult times. And I think just animal communication is helpful to help people. It's almost like if it's hard for people to ground themselves and meditate, they'll do it for their pet. And it helps people to get into it when they know that they're going to be doing that with their animal. And then in turn, it helps us as people to ground ourselves and be calmer and more mindful. So I have meditations in both the free classes and the paid classes that you can use to help you with that. There you are. She's there, but she's frozen. This has been interesting. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I think I'm going to end it unless anyone hasn't. Oh, wait, no, she popped to life. Okay. I don't know what's going on. We're having a rough time here today. I apologize. I don't really ever have this difficult of a time with the connection. Something always goes a little wonky, but it's usually not this bad. And I feel terrible that it's been this crazy. I don't know what is happening. But I think that we did get, things got a little tough at the end, but I think we got the story, that people got to hear what happened with Kano. And I think that's important. And also to learn about Kanoslaw and how they can get involved. And that's what's really important. And a better understanding, because I think some people even, said in here, we didn't realize that animals were by law considered property, and that you could end up in these terrible situations just because of that. So thank God for people like you,
Absolutely.
Sophia, who are doing something and taking action. So
Thank you.
yes, absolutely. So I just want to thank everybody for sticking with us through this challenging technical issues. And please do subscribe so that you can be notified about future episodes, and be in touch with us. And you can find me too at my website, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. And happy Easter to those out here. That's coming up. And God bless. Take care, everybody. Listen close. Rub my belly. Rub my belly.